Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel and for another round of C.Dat.Guy review movies. My name is Christian and for this week we have Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and I made my room dark just for this very occasion. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is a movie based on a series of children's books from the 80s to the 90s. Normally I don't really care for book to movie adaptations because I wasn't much of a reader, but this is one of the few I did read in elementary school, so when I first heard of this movie coming out, I was curious about it. Out of those three books, I could only remember some of the stories that I read, but really, it's not the stories, it was the pictures that stuck with you. I mean, when you have things like this, or oh my gosh, what the heck is that? Yeah, you're gonna remember those stories. Did I mention these were children's books? So I was only curious about this movie, but it wasn't until Guillermo Del Toro's name was attached to it, who made movies like the Hellboy series, not the recent one, The Shape of Water, and one of my personal favorites, Pacific Rim. I was definitely on board. I was bummed out that he wasn't directing it, but with him being as a producer, I knew we would at least get some fantastic creature designs. So, let's review it. At first, I thought it was going to be an anthology movie, kind of like Trick or Treat, because um, with this series, there's a lot of short stories that you can choose from, but it ended up being more like a darker version of Goosebumps. The movie takes place in 1968 Halloween, and you can already feel the old school vibes of the town, from the fashion to the atmosphere to the aesthetic. And then, of course, with Halloween, it's fall, and I don't know, but I guess whenever I see a movie start in fall, I can already assume, like, oh, the town is, like, old and it's already filled with secrets, personally. We get introduced to the main squad, which consists of Stella, Augie, Chuck, and Ramon. The first three people, they are all friends in what I'm guessing is high school, and Ramon is the out-of-towner. I didn't really recognize any of these people. I think they're all first-time actors, with the exception of the guy who's playing Tommy. Yeah, I only knew him because he was from Walking Dead. So if these guys were, first-time actors, I gotta say they did an okay job. I mean, all they really had to do was portray teenagers that were, kind of awkward, kind of trying to navigate through their lives, and so what they did was serviceable. And out of the group, I think I like Chuck the best, just because I guess he's supposed to be the funny guy of the group, and he does have a couple of pretty good lines. Otherwise, the teenagers, they are pretty stereotypical. They don't really develop, and they stay one-dimensional. There's also some backstory throughout the movie that they put in for Stella, but ultimately, now that I think about it, didn't really play into the story at all, so I felt like it was just kind of fluff added to the background, and it was really hard for me to connect to any of them anyways. Though the movie was noticeably lacking in their characters, they definitely made it up in their story because I found the plot to be kind of interesting. What I was really here trying to do was figure out how the stories were going to play out. I was wondering if they were just going to stick to the original story as the text says it, or were they just going to keep the monsters and then do something else. If you haven't seen any of the trailers, then go ahead, watch this movie blind. But if you have been watching the trailers since the Super Bowl, then yes, whatever those short trailers were, they're all in this movie. No more, no less. And I think they chose the right stories for what they were going with because, well, if it's an IP like Scary Stories, then you gotta choose the most popular ones. And they were the ones I could remember, whether it was the Red Spot, or it was Harold the Scarecrow, or the Big Toe Monster. I was getting a little bit of Final Destination vibes throughout the movie just because the plot is mainly driven by the book that they find in the house, and whatever is written in the book, that's what happens to the characters. And kind of like Final Destination, if the characters know what's gonna happen, then they have a chance to stop it. And since there's a new story being written every day, it keeps the movie on a pretty good pace. Though this was a book to film adaptation, I think the only original part of the movie was them trying to figure out the mystery of the book, like why it's there and what's its purpose. Once that is ultimately solved, I think the conclusion was like kind of lackluster. The moments leading up to them like ultimately figuring out what the book was for, it was good, but it felt like something that I've already seen before after all was said and done. So right up top, I talked about how I was anticipating great creature designs for this movie because of Guillermo Del Toro, and they lived up to it. The creature designs were fantastic because they looked like they were really lifted off the page and brought to life, particularly Harold the Scarecrow and the Pale Woman in the Red Room. And I think they were, they were scary enough to be serviceable and to serve the story. My theater was actually laughing at the Pale Woman during the Red Room scene with Chuck. Even though she looks exactly like how she is from the book, I don't think my theater found that scary just because she was kind of big. Well, she's very pale, but she's very slow moving, so maybe they didn't see her as a threat. But I don't know. I mean, look at this face. And then tell me if you were in a red room and that thing is heading towards you very slowly and there's no means of escape. Yeah, I think you'd find yourself very scared. Wait, what just happened? Was I in the red room? The best creature design has to go to the Jangling Man. He has a scary face, and he doesn't walk straight, and he moves in a very creepy way. And I think that easily made him the most frightening part of the movie, in my opinion. After doing some research, I found out that actually all these monsters were done with practical effects, so good on them. But for the Jangling Man, they casted Tony James, and I actually saw this guy through America's Got Talent. Here's his audition. So now that I knew that he played the Jangling Man, I thought it made the role more special because it was really perfect casting. Overall, I'm gonna have to give this movie a 6 out of 10. The characters weren't spectacular and the movie isn't really all that scary, but they had enough things going on story-wise to keep my attention. There's a handful of jump scares scattered throughout the movie, but I think I've watched enough horror movies for this one not to faze me. However, these were at least good enough that if you want to bring your kids, this would be a good introductory horror movie. And for all those out there who just flat out hate horror movies or just don't like being scared, I think you could also use this one. You could dip your toe in the water and see if you like it. I just hope you don't lose that toe. Alright guys, there's my movie review. What do you think? Do you agree or do you disagree? Leave whatever you have to say in the comment section. Also, give this video a thumbs up or thumbs down, however you feel. And if you want to see more movie reviews going forward, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. And so, I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Oh no. Oh no, no, not the pale woman, not the pale woman, no, no!